Here we are. Thoughts from the office. Rednecks Pride Outdoors. It's February 28th, I believe it is. And March 1st is Friday. And that's officially when our thoughts go to turkey hunting. Now, I know in the states south, many turkey seasons start around that March 1st date. But up here in the Northeast, our season will not start until the end of April. And March 1st is typically for New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and all that. That's our kickoff time to really start kicking in and finding your birds, your locations, and all that type of stuff. I was down south this past weekend at a duck and decoy show, and I had my duck calls and and what have you, and I had my turkey calls, my turkey diaphragms, and my personal box calls. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 of them, whatever it is. I have being a call maker, I have my own personal calls that I have. And I had my personal calls on the table, not for sale, but for um, display, if you will, so people could see them and custom order box calls from me. That's what we mainly are. We are a custom call manufacturer. And I had old boy pick up this call here. And he picked it up and he not all he did. Put it down and he goes, I don't like it. I don't like the sound. And that happens all the time. Okay. So I looked at him and I said, did you read the side of that box? And he looked at it and he read to one side and he said, Redneck's Pride, first box, testing box 1, 2005. And he looked back at me and I said, yep. I said, that was a brand spanking new design I had that I was doing back in 2005. I made two of them. I made this walnut and I made a cherry. And it was old school design. Ugly box call. Ugly. Ugly. And I was trying an extra wide lid and I was trying different thicknesses on my sides and heights on my side and a different angle on this. Okay, so it was something a little bit different than I had been making from 2000 on. So for the first 5 years I made certain type, and then this one was the number one test box. And I made a cherry for my son. I looked at that old boy and I said, you don't like the sound? And he goes, no, sir. It's all right. I said, but you know what? I said, that call right there that you don't like the sound on, that call right there has easily called in well over 100 toms. Now, I didn't say killed 100 toms. I said that call right there has called in well over 100 toms since 2005. I've got I gotta watch what I say. I don't want to alienate people. You know, when I said that call has called in well over 100 times. I don't know how many jakes and hens. He just looked at me, turned around, and walked off. Now, I wanted to tell him, I wanted to say, and I didn't. I wanted to say, you know, it don't matter what you like. It doesn't matter what you want. What matters is what the turkey wants, or the duck wants, or deer calls deer, predator, whatever. You see, one of the problems that we have, and I had it too, when I first started making calls, I started making calls for my ear. What I liked, what I wanted. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was back in those early, in the 80s, 70s and 80s, I could call critters. I still can. Matter of fact, in the 90s, that's where my nickname came from, the wildlife control field, man who talks to animals. And what I learned is, as I got into making calls more and more and more, and I started to listen to the animals more and more. Not listening to the animals for me, but it was for me, but I was listening to the animals to hear what they was saying and what they was doing, so I could try to imitate with a call for you. Turkeys was the biggest eye-opener to me. Because when I started really listening to the hens, and I wasted a lot of time, people, I'm telling you what, I still waste a lot of time. Starting Saturday, I'll be giving a talk at the New Jersey State Federation of Sportsmen's Clubs, Deer Classic and Convention, on predator calling. Predator season's just about done here. Another, 15 days, 18 days, I guess it is. 16 days, 17 days, whatever that is. 15th to close down March. Anyway, after Saturday, I will put my gear into finding hen turkeys and listening to them. Getting my ear back onto the turkeys. Now, I'm lucky. I pay myself to do that. If I can find time. Normal wildlife control is killing me. I'm about ready to retire out of this mess. But anyway, I will get out there and I will find those flocks of hens, because there's still flocks of hens. They're still separated from the toms at this point in my area. Down south, I imagine your flocks are combined by now. The further south you go, Florida, whatever, Alabama, Georgia. But from my area, the hens are still in their flock, and your jakes and toms are in the other flocks. Or not your jakes, but your toms. And what I hear is all those what I call flock sounds. And the only way you learn that stuff is you get out there before the season and you listen, and you waste time listening to them. And you listen to them quarrel, and you listen to them peep, and you listen to them growl, and you listen to them whine, and you listen to them. That old boy, I don't know his name right off the hand. I'm terrible at names. There's a little boy, he's got quite a few videos out on calling and hunting turkeys. And I tell you what, he's good, man. I like him. Every time one of his videos come up, I jump on it to take a listen to it, because he's good and he's down to earth and he knows what he's talking about. He's not showy. You know, it wasn't until I started listening to turkeys real time, not here, yonder, and about, but going out before the season and listening to them talk real time, I started to realize calls are made, as a rule, for people. Calls are made to attract people. And I learned that if I could imitate these real sounds better, my thought was anyway, better if I could imitate those real sounds. And listen, I'm going to tell you what, people, contrary to what you want to believe, real turkeys aren't always crisp and clear. They're crisp and clear inside that woods where the canopy is just right. You got a hardwoods and you got a good canopy over top, and you got a hollow or a draw, and that old hen gets to talking, right? Man, it just sounds pretty as all get out. But you take that same hen and put her out into a 100-acre field that ain't got a lick of vegetation in it, and that sound ain't the same. That same hen, that same sound ain't the same. You put that old hen, that same hen, you put her down into a South Jersey swamp where there is no canopy. It's just nothing. Vegetation from far left to far right, briars, brambles, and she's picking her way through this god-awful thicket, and she's doing her yelps, and that's a total different sound from the other two. I'm coming at you with redneck, man. I'm talking redneck here. I'm talking about real life turkeys. We like that reverb in that baby, man. We like that echo. Wham. We like that crisp clear. Bam. Hard knock, boy. I like it. But the reality is I've heard some turkeys that sounded like they was smoking 6 packs of cigarettes a day. I've heard gobblers do crisp clear, man, blow your ears off. And then I've heard other gobblers, the same gobbler in another situation, sound like he was a cispine, man. So what am I saying to y'all? I'll give you an example. I made a custom call for an old boy, Mike. Mike may be listening, maybe not. Okay, but Mike, he wanted a custom call, and told me what he wanted in it, and it was a glass top, and you could look down into it and see his logo that he wanted in there, and I put it in there, and it sat on his shelf for a long time. And he tried scratching the glass up, and he said to me, he goes, "I've really never liked the sound, so I never used it." He said that, but one time he said he had a turkey he just couldn't kill. No matter what he was using, no matter what he tried to use, he just couldn't get that bird to commit more than 80 yards out. So exasperation, he took that old call off the shelf for the next day, and he went out there, and he tried his go-to calls, and sure enough, that turkey did the same thing, coming in, holding up, and exasperation, bewilderment, didn't want to do it, reached into that bag, grabbed that old Purdy custom call that he had spent a lot of money on, and he cranked out a few yelps on that thing, and he said that turkey stopped looking at him, stopped gobbling, looked at him, He did a couple more, and he said next thing that thing is dead because it's running into him, and he killed that sucker. And he goes, I never would have believed it. I didn't like that sound. And I said, it don't matter what you like. Don't matter what you like. Matter what the turkey likes. And I've learned that as an old redneck that I am, as an old wildlife control specialist, as an old trapper, as an old outdoorsman, and I am an outdoorsman. I ain't very proper, I ain't very good looking. I sure can't talk a lick, but I am an outdoorsman, and I do study wildlife, and I do study critters. And the first thing I learned is what I like don't matter. It's what they like and what they want to hear. My best bird I ever killed. You've heard me say it a lot of times. It was, by the time I killed that bird, it was the last day of our season. It had been hunting on public ground, and it had been hunted hard by a lot of good boys, a lot of good turkey boys. Some old buddy called me up and said, go kill that stupid bird. He said, I don't have time to try to go get it again, and it's beat me 2 or 3 times. Beat everybody else too. Go kill that thing. So I went out and I tried, and I located that sucker, and I did my pretty calling. And that bird came in, and he stood out about 80 yards, and he took a peek over a log and disappeared. And so where the heck did he get to? About 10 minutes later, I'm keep locating. He right back where he started. So I reached into my bag, and I pulled out this old call. I don't remember if it was a sassafras or a split bay or if it was a crow's foot. I can't remember. But what I do remember was it was washed out, and it should have been tossed. It was the most god-awful sound. If you want to listen to it, I mean, it was the most god-awful sound you could hear. If you had heard me blowing that thing, you would have looked at me and you'd say, I ain't never buy one of his calls. Well, anyway, I put that old call in my mouth, and I commenced saying the words that I needed to say, cringing the whole time. Mushed out ebonics. I'm telling you what, it was terrible. And within 10 minutes, I killed that bird. That bird had 1 7/8 inch spur on one side and 2-inch spur on the other. It was down to around 16, 17 pounds. You could see where it was bigger. It didn't have a feather on its chest hardly. Its beard was down to about a 7-inch beard, but you could see where it was just beat to snot. I killed that bird not sounding like I should on a competition stage. You want to kill turkeys? Go listen to that old boy. You'll find him. Dean something, I think his name is. I apologize. I should know his name. I really like him. But go listen to him. Go listen to real live guys. And most important, if you're here in the Northeast, get your butt out of bed and go find the stinking turkeys and listen to them for 10, 15 minutes. Listen to them talk. Learn to talk to the hen. The biggest thing I ever did. I stopped talking to the tom, and I started talking to the hen. And I do a lot more talking. I'm an aggressive caller. I'm not aggressive in volume. I'm aggressive in amount of talking. I talk a lot, but I do it quiet, and I do it nonchalant. And I learned to read the body language, and that's what you need to do. You need to learn to read the body language of that old hen out there. And you need to know when to sass her, cuss her, just be one of the girls. And by doing that, you're going to call in a lot more times. Well, with tradition, I'm going to end it there. And just say Redneck's Pride Turkey Calls. Got to get you one. I'll talk to you later. Redneck's Pride Outdoors. Thoughts from the office.